Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Real Talk from Our Stories, Your Legacy. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the top 3 ways that we believe that you can stay sane and healthy during these crazy times that we are in. For context, quarantine during COVID-19. Before we jump in, we're just going to do a quick roundtable and see who's part of the discussion today. I'll start. My name is Steven Suryadit.
Hey, Tyler hopping in here.
Andrew over here.
Hey guys, Vaughns here.
For the listeners, these are the brothers right here. You know, we've been friends with each other for a very long time. And so, this is the first of many that we're just going to hop on from wherever we are in the world and just have real talk. So here we go. I want to talk about a debate and come up with a consensus of the top 3 things that we recommend of how to stay sane and healthy during these strange times that we're in, of COVID-19, coronavirus, however you want to call it, this lockdown of public safety. We do want to acknowledge that, for the frontline service workers, military aid, medical doctors, nurses, doing their thing, that we're not trying to, encourage people to, I know there's like that, that negative connotation that people are like, I read it in a meme somewhere. People are like, if you're not doing anything to improve yourself during this time, then you're just lazy. I don't want to encourage that at all, because I feel like it's not about that. It's about staying safe, following, public safety recommendations. So, but for us, it's just like, how do we pass the time a little bit in a productive way that gets us ready for when, the world comes back to normal per se. So, yeah. Who wants to start? Throw out an idea in there, one thing.
Well, I guess I can take lead if no one else wants to. So before I got activated for the guard, so for this COVID response, I know it's kind of contradicting what Stephen, you had mentioned earlier about if you're not learning a new skill or you're not learning something. I've kind of taken that up and started learning more about just the stock trading, and looking at like getting like a certification, like all online certification that the like military offers, just because with everything that they're trying to push, a lot of our like drill weekends, and meaning that we consolidate at a place and do like our normal like drill weekend for our military jobs have been teleworking. And so a lot of the things that we have like our soldiers doing now is doing like online classes instead, to like supplement for that training. And so I took that idea and just kind of implemented for my own personal life, is learning, one, how can I make myself better, and and two, like, how can I make myself more educated coming out of this. And not everyone has to do it. There are other ways to stay busy, but I think with my kind of mind it's just something that I can kind of look forward to, almost in a sense, when things are kind of like at a halt.
So yeah, from what I hear out of that, it seems like the idea of learning something new during this time, it doesn't mean that we're trying to one up each other. So yeah, even though I mentioned that meme earlier, it's about our own personal sense of taking this time to just kind of develop ourselves. I agree with that.
Like, we all have goals that we're trying to reach now, and like now is the perfect time to reach like your personal goals. Like, I've even started looking at like, maybe can I enroll into the fall for a master's program, because who knows how long this thing is going to go for.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to like even just explore those options. Like I'm going to take an orientation for one of my PMP classes, and it's going to be totally online. Like, they're going to have things through like Blackboard or something, and it's totally paid for the Army. And I think it's like a 12 or 10 week course, and at the end of it they tell you how to get your PMP certification and get your get you ready for the test. So just personal goals. Like you said, we all have things that we want to achieve. Now's the time that you can step back and kind of evaluate those goals.
100%, man. Because I agree with learning too. And if I can jump in to add to that, um, because for me, I've been reading even more. And usually my typical reading goals, before all this happened would, I try to strive for like 20 pages a day every day. But now with everything, I feel like with these times, I don't look at it negative. I feel like this is kind of like a blessing for things to slow down and take advantage of more things of personal development. And now I'm reading close to like 100 pages a day. Um, and I'm rereading some really some of the books that inspired me from previously, and I am kind of rereading, taking time to reread those. And kind of like the cool thing about rereading a book is that, I got this quote from a coworker. It's like when you go back to reread a book, it feels like it's not the same because you're looking at it from a different perspective, because from where you are now, from when you first read it, you have grown so much, and so you take something new from it each time. And I think that's where I'm at when it comes to learning. So I think a good point is just to learn something new, whether it's cooking or whether it's just taking advantage to study something that you always wanted to do.
Like making that whipped coffee. Go. What
Yeah,
do they call it? It's just the dalgona or whatever.
the
Coffee.
Korean coffee.
Is
Yeah,
it
like
Korean?
dalgona or whatever.
Is it Korean?
I think it's Korean, right?
Yeah.
I remember what was it? It was yeah, me and Vanessa, we went to H Mart over there in Federal Way, and we tried to buy the ingredients for it, but we messed up because apparently there's a fine print. You have to buy just regular what do you call it? Instant coffee. But
Yeah.
we accidentally bought one that was instant coffee but came with like sugar and creamer already embedded in it. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it does not work with that. You have to get just instant coffee. Thanks for that, Andrew.
Mhm.
I'll
You
hop.
could put hella sugar in it. Just to
Yeah,
catch it.
just hella sugar. um, I think to piggyback on that, in this, in learning new things, trying new hobbies and everything, but also creating that routine and following the routine that you had before. You kind of got for those of us working from home, like creating a routine, kind of like we did when we were going to work and everything. So one of the things that I've been doing to kind of keep sane and keep going during the time is just one of the things I did before the quarantine started, and that was just meditate. So just taking some time to myself, just meditate, when you go into just like that super strong, lean back, super straight posture, hands down, just kind of close your eyes and just focus on your breathing. Um, and do that for like 20, 25 minutes sometimes, whenever you can. 10 minutes is good too, but, where you kind of just kind of that zone out where you just, there's nothing, you don't think about anything, you just zone out. You almost kind of have that feeling of like you're almost like slipping into sleep, but that's the point that you want to get to when you meditate, because it helps keep you fresh. So I mean, that's just something that kind of keeps me level-headed too, because you kind of have to being at home all day.
How have you have have the amount of time that you spent to meditate, has that increased before the lockdowns happen, or have you always been meditating to some extent?
Yeah, so I always try to meditate. So what I usually do is like routine. I kept the routine kind of like when I was going to work. So I would usually start my day off with coffee, just because that's part of the routine. Even if I don't feel like I need the coffee, I just like the taste of the coffee. And then usually how I did my meditation was whatever I was doing um, at the end of the day, whatever time you get off at the end of the day, 10 minutes before your shift is over, I would actually spend that time to just shut everything down and then just meditate at my desk. See, a lot of people try to meditate in their car when they're driving. It doesn't really work because you have other things happening, you know. So you can either do this 10 minutes at the end of your day, just kind of decompress from the day. And then when you leave, you're good, you know, or like once you work up until your stopping point, then when you get to your car or however you do it, if you're on the train, you can meditate on a train, that kind of thing too. But before you start the commute, if you're driving even, you could just hop in the car, sit there for 10 minutes, meditate before you leave, and then it kind of clears everything and gives you a clear mind. So you don't have to think about that stuff, you know, either on the way to your car or just like before you start driving. So that's what I did before. Now I kind of just do it in the middle of the day, usually on my lunch break, or like if I know it's getting a little bit slower towards the afternoon, because there's not a ton of stuff coming in because of, you know, quarantine and everything. I'll take some time, just go in the other room, away from everybody else in the house kind of thing, and just meditate for, you know, 10 minutes, whatever I feel is necessary at that point. Some days are a little bit tougher just because there's a lot going on, or you feel like you're a little bit more pressured. So you take longer than 10 minutes, but hey, you just take as long as you need. And that's, you know, that's how it is. You just got to clear your mind. So that was one of those things. I'd always take at least 10 minutes at the end of my day when I was working. And now I take, you know, a couple of 10-minute meditation breaks during the day.
Yeah, I think meditation is for another topic. I've been trying to dabble in meditation too, and the hardest thing for me is, from what I've read, is basically the idea of not passing judgment or letting go of thoughts that always fleet into our heads. You know, I don't know if you, Zavon or Andrew, if you guys ever tried meditating. It's hard. It's definitely a lot of self-control, because you can't 100% block out thoughts in your head, you know, unless you're like brain dead or something. But it's like thoughts will always come to your head, but the idea of meditation is to acknowledge it and let it pass, and then continue on for, you know, 5-10 more minutes of silence, or just focusing on your breathing, or focusing on one particular thing. um, Yeah, and that's another thing that maybe we'll talk on another time, Tyler, is maybe you teach us the art of, you know, tips and guidance of meditating, because I do see the effects of it. At the end of meditating, it really feels like you're in the moment, and you are more thoughtful of everything around you. Everything just feels more relaxed. Even if you go back to something stressful, just meditating for like 5 minutes or something, you really feel refreshed. It's weird. But it's such a hard thing to do for the first time.
Yeah, no, it definitely
So,
takes time. A lot of it comes down to the breathing and everything and the technique. And for me personally, like it's one of my things when I'm at work, you know, work is one thing. My life is a separate thing. You know, so when like you get off of work and people are like, "How was work?" And I'm like, honestly, I don't want to talk about work. Like
mhm.
that's the last thing I want to talk about. I worked and now I'm off of work, so I don't want to talk about work that happened while I was at work. So that's just something how I operate when I get off of work. I'm done talking about work. I don't care if I want to share something about work. I usually don't,
Mhm.
because I try to separate that from my
Mhm.
normal life. You know, just to kind of keep those two things separate. So that's why I meditate before I leave work, whether that be at my desk or in my car before I drive, because then I just let everything from work pass. You know, sometimes I'll meditate at the end of the day if some things get super stressful, like after work. But typically, I just meditate to get all the work stuff out because I don't need to be thinking about that until at least tomorrow. You know.
Right. That's awesome. So it sounds like, just to recap so far, we got 2 points on the board right now. It's learning, taking advantage of learning something new, and then also keeping freshening up your routine and meditating. Um, I think we could combine those two together. Savon?
Oh, for me, I follow along. I follow along the lines of that meme that you shared earlier. Like, if you're not doing anything, you're lazy. Um, honestly, I see this as a good thing of where we're at now. I'm just taking it as it is. I think a lot of folks should too. I speak on behalf of the folks, mainly for those who just choose to, use this time at home to just sit back and recharge, especially for those more introverted people out there, especially myself, very well introverted. Back when things were, running normal, going to work every day and stuff, a lot of things were just happening at work in terms of like transitioning. A lot of cogs were moving, and I was just fried. I was totally tapped out. I was just tired of being around people, if I have to be honest. Like I was just like, nothing against the people I was working with or being with or talking to or interacting with every day, but I was just fried. And I was like begging for just some time to recharge and whatnot. I was contemplating just taking like a week vacation and whatnot. And then all of a sudden COVID happened. So I've been taking advantage, reflecting the past month or two for however long this has been going now. And, like that meme that you shared earlier, like some people like kind of stigmatize those who have been just, a little more laid back during this crisis. But, I find it very grounding just to be a little more self-aware of who we are and reflecting of like, the things we've done and the accomplishments that we're proud of so far in like 2020 that we've, experienced like personally and whatnot. But, I see this cut in my routine very eye-opening, and I contemplate about it every day. But I'm also not freaking out too much just because I know I don't want to sound like narcissistic or like bragging or anything, but I know I can bounce back from this. Like, the harder you fall, the higher you bounce back up. Some folks freak out. It's like, oh man, my routine's broken, this and that and this and that. And they find ways to like, simulate or live some version of their normal routine during this quarantine. And that's great. To each their own, do what works best for you. For me, I'm taking it as it is. Like before I would commute to work every morning, I would go to the gym, wake up at 4 a.m, and then at 6 a.m. I'm like in the gym, and then like at 8 I'm at work. And that was like part of my lifestyle. It was part of my routine. It was second nature and all that stuff. And then being pulled away from that it's a good thing. It's like taking a recovery week or a rest week or even a month or a few months when you've been training so hard. This is exactly how I see it in terms of like life and our lifestyles. I think personally, we needed a break of all this human interaction, all this human connection to realize and be aware that we shouldn't take all that stuff for granted. And hopefully folks are reflecting and they're being more self-aware of the things that are going on around. And hopefully, just the optimistic side of me is thinking this will help us bring us closer together when things get back to normal. And some folks may disagree. Some folks really are glued to the media and be like, all deep into the politics of things and whatnot, the rights, the wrongs, the moral judgments against each other, and the decisions that the government's making, whatever. All that shit, it's toxic. If people really cared and people were really what would I say, a lot more mindful about what's going on, and more empathetic, they wouldn't allow like all that negativity that they see on the media or what they hear from other folks take over their thoughts, because you can either see this whole COVID-19 thing as something that divides us more or something that will bring us together in the future. And I go with the latter. So, just taking time to reflect.
I like that. Yeah, it seems like, we can, I agree with that. It seems like we can categorize this as kind of like in tough times, just also take advantage of enjoying the moment, being in the moment. And because from what I hear from you, it seems like just trust in the process, as things will be okay. This is kind of like nature's way of allowing us to be able to just finally slow down from stereotypical societal pressures. If now you could just kind of like be in the moment. Everyone always talks about you need to just slow time down and be in the moment, and it's easier said than done because of just the pressures of everything we got to do day to day. And this is finally a way for us to take advantage of just being in the moment, enjoying each minute for what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see
How would you
I was gonna say, I describe it as like being in the eye of the storm. You can never escape life's problems and whatnot, and problems will come and go. There are problems that you choose and to solve, and there are gonna be problems that just come up naturally that you can't really get a hand on. So you just gotta live through it. You gotta sit in the eye of the storm, and you just gotta see it all for yourself. Because no life is gonna be like sunshine and rainbows.
no
So
how would you categorize this?
what do you mean?
In terms of one of our top points, how would you describe this in a few words or less?
Just grounding, just staying grounded.
Yeah.
Because when you get into the routine of things, and like I said, like my routine was waking up at 4 a.m., gym, work, do whatever after work, go home, whatever. Your mind is just on autopilot. Like I said, a cut in a routine, a break in a pattern will wake you up, and how you respond to that, it really shows your character. So, like I said, some people panic, some people just remain grounded, sit back, and just wait for everything to pass. Some people live with that mindset that this too shall pass, as the saying goes.
Yeah.
But it's whatever works for you, right?
Yeah. Andrew, can I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
So speaking of what he's saying, so for our video, just for context, Andrew's in the military, and right now he's activated to do a lot of work in terms of COVID-19 efforts and helping out with that. I won't go too much into details, but so I love your point in the beginning, because I agree with all of our points, and especially yours, where take advantage of this time to also learn or try something new. How does the Vaughns point play into that too? Where, because for you, it seems like kind of like unlike the rest of us, you're more on the run, as if things are normal, or maybe even more busier than usual. How does also trying to be grounded during these times influence how you're taking advantage or living through these times?
Yeah, that did come to mind when someone was talking. My experience isn't like most ordinary. I'd probably fall into the category of all like the first responders, everyone else who's kind of doing their part to respond to this pandemic, right? And yeah, you're right. It is a lot more busy, than my normal pace. It is a break, in a sense, in the same way as it is where I'm breaking my routine, my normal day-to-day jobs. But kind of what influences me is that I'm doing my part for the community. The community has done so much for me, for as far as my successes and everything that I am today. And it what drives me is that I'm able to give back and do my part, in a sense of getting us through this, because lives are on the line. Yeah, like our lives matter, and we're trying to do the best that we can, but there are people out there dying, and it's a real thing. And you kind of get desensitized almost when you see the numbers and you see the cases every day, and it's like it's almost daunting. Like I need the harder I work right now, the faster this will all come to an end. And that's what influences my decisions, and how I try to stay grounded and try to I really don't know. You just kind of have to take it day by day, like everything else. You don't
Yeah.
what the work will change and direction might change, and COVID doesn't take any breaks, so you have to be as fluid as it's kind of the theme that want to I want to say for this is being flexible with all of this, because you don't know what's going to happen. You can stay grounded and take it all in, but it also kind of lets you remind you that you do have one life to live, and you should go out, you should live it to your best. That's not don't go out and break the law and go spread COVID around, but
Yeah.
really, you have one life to live, and if you are grateful enough to be able to spend time with your loved ones, and you know take on a new skill and make yourself better, or create bonds that are broken, or reestablish new ones that were kind of silenced in a sense, go for it. So it's everyone's opportunity to make themselves better for anything.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, that's definitely a fresh perspective. Um, so thank you again for what you do. Yeah, because from me, I am the only connect to the outside world. Is if I'm doing grocery shopping, or if I'm connecting with a client when we're doing projects with them. But even then, I'm still confined to a particular world. And for me, for the past several years, for myself, I admit I avoid negative news or news in general now, just because I just feel like so much negativity comes from them, from my personal opinion. And so I don't know if that's a bad thing too, because with us during quarantine, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I am still ignorant to um, everything that's how serious this all really is. Doesn't mean that I'm still trying to go out there and party. It means I'm still listening to the public advice and staying indoors, you know, 6 feet separation, wearing a mask when you go out, etc. But it's tough during these times to again, it's part of my routine of I'm trying to avoid the negative news, but only try to seek out what's really real out there. So that's from my perspective of being someone who's kind of not a first responder. And so thank you for sharing that. That's a great perspective to have. I mean, even more so, it's like the majority of people out there, I feel, if they're not a first responder, I feel like I'm not the only one who's ignorant to the rest of this. So I feel like there's more people out there, and it's even worse when the people who you are closest to are not affected by it. And so you think a lot of people think oh yeah, no, this is just a government conspiracy or anything like that. And so that's what makes you start hearing more negative news of people protesting now and all that stuff. And it's yeah, in this age of media, you start to think there's more conspiracy and the government locking you down, but it's there has to be something to it. It's a sickness. And if you just follow, um, kind of advice of public health safety, just listen to it. I feel, and I feel like part of our conversation here to keep things sane is I think because of this quarantine is making people come up with crazy theories and whatnot, whether valid or not. But I feel like this is our top 3 ideas, is to kind of keep ourselves sane, is make us, all these 3 points we're discussing makes it feel like it keeps us more human, um, for example, like you said, continue to, I think let's start with the first point, that we're trying to learn something new, or try something new, take advantage of kind of grasping of things that you always wanted to do, but now you have the time to take advantage of it. Taking more classes, online classes, or reading a new book, or reading up on a new hobby.
Learn to cut your own hair. I don't know.
Yeah, no, seriously. Well, Vanessa cuts my hair, so I need her just buzzed right through it real quick. But funny about the haircut thing. I mean, it's I'm. You guys know me. For context, for the people who's listening, it's I've always had short hair my entire life. like Tyler.
Yeah.
And I want to use this time to be like, you know what? I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna see how long I can grow out my hair because I don't have to go out to public, often. So I want to see how long I can grow out my hair. Um, so yeah, try something new. Second point is, you know, freshen up on your routines, or take advantage of like looking at what you've been doing on the daily when the world was normal, and just kind of keeping yourself sane of going through the motions again of you know trying to keep that perspective things are normal. Meditate, be able to kind of just that ties into the third point too with Vaughns is staying grounded. While we're in the eye of the hurricane, while the world is swirling crazily around us, uh, stay true to who we are and know that things will get better, um, if we all stay empathetic and we all stay true to who we are. I think we'll all make it out of this as better humans, if we weren't already better humans before, but even better for the world. You have any last points, Tyler?
Yeah, I'll throw a couple things in there. I know one of the points that Zavon mentioned too is kind of it relates to burnout. That's another topic for another day. That's very serious stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
But something I would say too is, I know it said, we basically said, don't take things for granted from our normal life that was before the quarantine, and I would also add that don't take it, for granted what we have now too. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's one of those things that for those of us who are working at home and are, I wouldn't say stuck with the same people all the time, but like, if you're living with like your parents, your partner, spouse, whatever that may be, siblings, whoever you're living with, it's one of those things that you see them all day now. If you're working from home, it's one of those things that during the day you can't spend that time with them because you're working. Like, yeah, you might get distracted by them, but I think it's also very important to maintain a healthy relationship with those people that you see now every day, that you saw every day before, but now you're spending countless hours with them, right?
They're your
So
coworkers.
yeah, so it's like, I think it's important to maintain the relationship, the healthy relationship there, and that quality time, um, and not take things for granted at that point. So like, if you do live with like your significant other, what I'm saying, typically in a long work day or a normal day where you're at work all day and then you get to see them in the evening, you spend that time with them, you spend quality time with them. Don't take it for granted now that you see them 8 hours during your work day, and then also after work too. You know what I'm saying? So like, oh, well, we spent all day together working. It's like, well, the focus wasn't on that person or your parents or whoever you're living with. It was work. Like that was your main focus. Like, yeah, you can talk to them during the day, or you talk to your friends on video conferencing and stuff like that. But, still maintain that relationship to where you can create like your time, whether that be with your mom, your dad, your sister, brother, significant other, whatever that may be. Continue, spending time with them outside of like your normal work day. Like, still try to, it falls into that routine thing, but just maintain that healthy relationship with them and make sure that you do spend quality time and put quality time aside for them.
Yeah, thanks for that. I feel like uh, in respect to our times, I think we're gonna wrap it up a little bit. And so I feel like you brought up a great point, Tyler. And so for me, I felt like originally your point of routine and then meditation are something that can be split up now. I feel like with meditation, it could be in with our third point of staying grounded, in terms of who we are. And then I feel like with your new point of maintaining relationships can be combined with routine, or even polishing your routine, to kind of normalize things, or to kind of keep your head on straight. Um, so I think for this last bit of time we have left, I feel like one, let's try to clean up our top 3 points, and see if we agree with it. And I think let's end it on there. For me, I'm gonna throw out my my ideas first of the top three, or to kind of clean it up and see what you guys think. One, I think could, in these times, uh, of quarantine during these lockdowns, to keep us sane and healthy, I think take advantage of the quarantine. So learn and try new things. Second, um, uh, keep your perspective in order. So maintain routines and relationships, or improve routines and relationships. And then third, just keeping yourself grounded, staying true to yourself, and knowing that during these crazy times around us, we'll make it out okay.
Sounds
I
fine to
love your
me.
shirt, by the way, man.
Oh, yeah,
Every
that's for
time we
that.
jump on one of these, I feel like you gotta have one of those.
Yeah, it totally describes my introversion. So.
All right, guys, that's it. And